Hi, I'm Marlena Gonzalez. I'm one of the Adult Services Librarians here at Middle Country Library, and today I'm going to show you how to make a terracotta lighthouse. This is in celebration of our annual Museum Day on Thursday, May 20th, and we have a whole day planned of various activities for all ages to celebrate our Long Island museums. So in your take and make bag, you'll have a couple of items. You will have a tube of Gorilla Glue, a foam brush, 3 containers of paint, white, black, and blue, a small votive candle, 2 saucers, a small pot, and a medium-sized flower pot.
To start with the 2 clay pots, and you can put all of your other materials to the side for the time being because we're just going to work with the pots. Now the first thing you'll want to do is flip both of them upside down because you're going to end up stacking them one on top of the other. Now you'll take your Gorilla Glue and dot the inside rim of the larger pot. You're not going to want to go too close to the edge of the larger pot because when you glue the smaller pot on top, the glue might seep over into the outside of the pots. So you can either do a full string all the way around the pot, or you can just make multiple dots of glue around the inside rim, and you'll have plenty of glue. If you need to add more, that's totally fine. Just be careful not to put too much glue so that it seeps on out to the sides of the pots. Now you'll want to take your smaller pot and set it right on top, right in line with the larger pot, and you may want to rock it back and forth just a tiny bit, kind of wiggle it around to make sure that it really makes contact with that glue. And you might discover, as I did, that it just didn't seem to make contact with the glue, so that you do need to add a little more Gorilla Glue, which is totally fine. So then I went ahead and really tried to make a full line of Gorilla Glue around that inside of the rim. Then you'll stack the 2 pots together, and you want to give it about 3 to 5 minutes for that Gorilla Glue to really set. You want to make sure that when you can pick the pots up, that they won't separate. And again, if you want to wiggle it a little bit and rock back and forth so that you can make sure that you have a lot of contact between the glue and the pots. And if a little bit does seep on into the outside, you can use your finger or a wet paper towel and just to clean it up. So just give that a few minutes to set and for that glue to dry before you begin painting your pots. Now what you want to do is just give it a little test to make sure that that glue is dry and that you can pick up the pots without them separating. Now you can take your white paint and you're going to paint both pots white. Even though the pots are white to begin with, you can see they are a little bit different texture-wise and a slightly different shade. So you're going to want to cover both pots with the white paint. You might need that. You might notice that you need 2 coats of the white paint, which is totally fine. It is outdoor acrylic paint, which if you are going to display the pots outside, you would certainly want to use that. If you're going to display them inside, what you can do is also take latex paint. If you have latex paint that matches your decor, you can do that as well to match your decor. You can paint any kinds of stripes that you'd like using the blue or black paint. You could do one large black stripe in the middle, just like the Robert Moses Lighthouse actually has one at the top and one down towards the bottom. Or we did not include red paint with this project, but you can do one large red stripe, one thick red stripe in the middle to look like the Montauk Lighthouse. Or you can create spirals. You can do a Google image search for Terracotta Lighthouse. There are some design ideas included with your instructions that are really cute. And you can, do whatever you'd like to make it your own and match your decor. So now you'll want to get started painting both pots white. And again, you may need 2 coats. I think I did for this project. And you'll want to make sure around that glue line that you created that you kind of push in a little bit with the brush to make sure you kind of cover that seam in between the 2 pots. So you can kind of push in with that foam brush. You could use a different brush if you like the way a brush that you have applies the paint. For these purposes, we included the foam brush. And so you're just going to go around and cover that seam first and then cover both pots. You don't need to do the top of the top pot with the hole in there because you are going to cover that with a piece, one of the saucers that kind of looks like a beacon. So you can just go ahead and paint both pots white. For purposes of this video, we're going to speed up the paint process. So while the white paint dries, I went ahead and began painting the saucers 1 coat of black paint. And depending on how your paint applies, you might only need one coat of black paint. I went ahead and did both sides of the saucers in black. If you need a second coat, if you see some spots that need coverage, you can certainly go ahead and apply a second coat of black paint. And you'll just want to make sure that those saucers dry. Again, you'll be doing both sides of the saucers and covering it completely with black paint. These are actually going to go on the top of the pots in between the votive candle to act as a lighthouse beacon, and the top one will also act as a candle snuffer. Now here's a possible way that you can paint the stripes on your lighthouse if you'd like to do so. Again, you can do whatever design you'd like. I chose to use rubber bands, which you can make straight lines, or you can use the rubber bands on an angle and make some spirals with your paint. So if you have rubber bands handy, you want to go ahead and just wrap them around the pots. Again, if you do it on an angle, that'll create a little bit of a spiral effect. If you do it straight side to side, then you'll have horizontal stripes. So go ahead and adjust the rubber bands. Take your time with this because this will be the guidelines for your stripes. You'll want to go ahead and adjust them, make sure they're even. So you'll put 2. I put 2 maybe about a 1/2 inch apart. And I made sure that they lined up at the same angle so that the spiral looked even. And then you can go ahead and do the next level of spiral at whatever distance you decide and set your rubber bands in place. And again, take your time adjusting them so that they sit in the position that you would like them to be in. So now you'll just want to keep going with your rubber bands and just keep checking in to decide where exactly you're painting your stripes. For these purposes, I'm going to leave the top part white. Now here you can leave the top part white and then do every other set of rubber bands, paint blue or white if that's your chosen design, or another color if you have. And now you can go ahead and take your blue paint and begin painting right in between those rubber band lines. And this, you will definitely need 2 coats of paint. As you can see how light the blue is going on. And you'll just want to take your time with this, go really slow. It can be a little tough to get in between those lines, and be sure that you get up to the rubber bands with your paint. And again, you'll want this to dry, and you'll probably want to add a second coat. Now here's where you'll very carefully want to begin removing your rubber bands if this is the design you've chosen to try. You'll really want to stretch them out and then remove them quickly. And you will notice you will have some spots where some of the blue paint has bled into the white paint, so that might require some touching up. As you can see, I'm smoothing out some of the blue paint. When I remove the rubber bands, some of the blue paint lifted a little bit, so you can just use your finger and smooth that out. And you can see it here, the spots that I've made some mistakes, and some of the paint needs to be corrected. So you can just take your white paint and touch up those spots. Now once that's all dried, you can choose to add a door and windows with your black paint. If you have a really steady hand, you can take a small brush and put either just a door or 1 or 2 windows, whatever you choose to do for these purposes. I am going to add a door at the bottom, and then a window maybe in the middle of the bottom pot, and then towards the maybe the middle of the upper pot. You can use a smaller brush if you choose, or if you have a nice steady hand and want to use the foam brush, you can certainly do that as well. Now, if you have a steady hand, you can also choose to outline the doors and windows with a Sharpie or an acrylic paint pen that you can buy at any craft store. So I'm going to go ahead as long as everything is completely dry, the Sharpie should go on in a manner that you can then fill it in with the black paint. So now you can go ahead and draw your windows on. For these purposes, I'm just making a rectangle with the Sharpie just to outline it, and I'm making 4 window panes, and we're just going to speed this up. Just making 4 window panes that I am going to fill in with black paint. And they are not the neatest looking window panes, so I did wind up, during this video we edited it out, but I did wind up covering them with white paint again, letting it dry, and attempting my windows again, and they still need to be fixed up a little bit. So the windows are definitely going to be probably the toughest part of this project. So feel free, if you need to cover it with white paint, let it dry and try them again. Now I'm just going to fill in the door with the black paint, and just very gently with the corner of the foam brush, just dipped in the tiniest little bit of paint. Take your time, go nice and slow so that it's a nice neat project. And if you need to do a second coat of the black paint, you can certainly feel free to do so. You may end up messing up your edges a little bit around the door, which is totally fine. You can fix those with a Sharpie or an acrylic pen to make them a little neater. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing very gently and very carefully with the window panes. Just take the tiniest little bit of black paint on the very corner of your foam brush and just dot that paint right into the window panes, because you can always go back and fix it up as needed. Now, once your windows have dried, you're going to go ahead and take the saucers that are completely dried and attach them to the top of the clay pot. Now, the bottom saucer, you're going to attach with the Gorilla Glue, and it's going to act as the bottom of the beacon of the lighthouse and also a place for the votive candle to sit. So once again, you're going to take your Gorilla Glue and dot the top of that top pot the same way you did the other one, so that the saucer sits nicely at the top of the pot. And once you've set that saucer on, you're going to allow about 3 to 5 minutes for it to dry. Press it in to make sure you get nice contact with the glue in between the saucer and the top pot. And you can go ahead and touch up any little paint. So once that's dry, that's going to act as a place for your votive candle to sit. Now, you don't want to glue the votive candle onto the saucer, because when the votive candle runs out, you're going to want to be able to replace that. So we're not going to glue that on. We're just going to let it sit right on there. You can also use an empty votive candle with a battery-powered tea light if you'd like to do that. If you want to set it outside or anywhere inside, that's also an option. So you're not going to glue that on. You're going to want to remember, if you move this piece, that those two top pieces are not glued on. And then the top of the saucer as well does not get glued on. You're just going to use that as the top of your beacon, and then also as a candle snuffer when the lighthouse is not lit. So that just sits right on top, and your project is finished. I am going to go ahead and straighten up my paint lines and my windows. But other than that, the project is basically finished. So we would love to see your projects. We would love to see how yours came out. Please make sure that you post them on social media and tag us, or send them to us through Facebook or Instagram. We would love to highlight those as well to see how they looked and what kind of designs you did. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.